This chapter is the most crisp and the shortest chapter of the Indian physical geography, this world map. This is a hand-drawn world map for you. We have got to know two things. First, northern hemisphere, southern hemisphere, based on the equator, eastern hemisphere and the western hemisphere, basis of the prime meridian, that is the 0-degree longitude. Canada, China, USA, Brazil, Australia, India. So this is a way you can basically remember this particular order. What are the least number of states or union territories one has to go through or cut if particular longitude is being crossing India? To which all state does it basically cut? This can be asked because this is again present in your NCERT, so you should know them. This particular line which is separating the territory which is occupied by China and the one which is in the Indian gamut is known as the line of actual control, LOAC or LAC also for that matter. Hello aspirants, I'm Harpreet Singh and I'm going to take your lectures of geography on the YouTube channel PW OnlyIAS English. As promised, we are going to begin with the YouTube series of the Indian geography. The first lecture being India location, that is based on the NCERT. This chapter is the most crisp and the shortest chapter of the Indian physical geography. Nonetheless, this is a very important chapter and plays a very pivotal role in the preliminary examination as well as the mains examination in understanding the position of India on the world map and the various dimensions associated with that. So let's begin with today's lecture. Before we begin, this is the Telegram channel where you can find the PDF of this particular lecture. Along with it, a lot of content related to anthropology optional, geography, society, and general guidance with respect to civil services preparation. So let's begin today's lecture. If you see this world map, this is a hand-drawn world map for you. Now, if you want to locate the position of India, it is here. Now, when we look at the world map, there are a lot of things, a lot of questions that can be asked by the UPSC in your prelims or some analytical part in the mains examination. Let's analyze this. If you see this particular line, this represents the equator. Now the equator, as you would be knowing, is the 0-degree latitude. All the parts which lie north of the equator can be considered a part of the northern hemisphere. Repeating again, all the parts that are above the equator can be considered as a part of the northern hemisphere. All the countries and parts that are below the equator can be considered as the southern hemisphere. Now, so we can divide on the basis of equator into northern and southern hemisphere. Similarly, if I see this particular longitude, which is 0-degree longitude, can be also called as the prime meridian. Similarly, over here, all the countries or parts which are on the right side of the prime meridian are called Eastern Hemisphere or the Eastern Hemispheric countries. On the other hand, all the countries towards the west side of the prime meridian are considered as a part of the Western Hemisphere. Now, we have got to know two things. First, Northern Hemisphere, Southern Hemisphere, based on the equator, Eastern Hemisphere and the Western Hemisphere, basis of the prime meridian, that is the 0-degree longitude. Based on this, what is the location of India? So, India lies over here and we can say it lies in the northeastern hemisphere. Now, when you are preparing for the examination, sometimes in the preliminary examination when such statements come, you tend to get confused if you do not know them. The location of India, when we are considering from the perspective of hemisphere, it is the northeastern hemisphere. Hopefully it is easy for you to understand also and you will remember looking at the map. Let's move ahead and analyze India from the perspective of the various continents that are present. You very well know, like as we have mentioned, India lies in the northeastern hemisphere. Now, if we see from the perspective of the various continents that are present, you see there is North America, there is South America, there is Antarctica, there is Africa, there is Europe, there is Asia, there is Australia. So many continents are present. But when we refer to India, we very well know that India is a part of Asia. But if you read the NCERT, very particularly, there's an exact location of India. India lies over here. This is India. The exact location is India lies in the south central part of Asia. Now, this is where students tend to get confused. In the examination, or the preliminary examination, if they mention something else, Eastern Asia or some other part, then you possibly might get confused because you haven't read the NCERT. So the exact location is south central part of Asia if you are taking the location or referring to the location with respect to the continents. So we have studied two things. India is located on the northeastern hemisphere. Along with it, India is located on the south central part of Asia. So these two things form a very basic premise of India's location. Let's move forward and analyze the various aspects associated with India. Okay, something that is present with respect to the NCERTs of smaller classes like class 6th, 7th and 8th, where very often certain basic questions are asked or can be asked in the civil services in one or two statements which we tend to neglect. In that context, with respect to the India's location, India is the 7th largest country based on the area. Now this is what? This is based on area. Based on area. The largest country on the basis of area is Russia. Second being Canada. Third being China. Fourth being United States of America. Fifth being Brazil. Sixth being Australia. Seventh being India. If you analyze the India's area, you know that very well. It is 32,87,263 kilometers square. Now this particular area is merely 2.4% of the world's total surface area. Merely 2.4% of the world's surface area. The question arises, sir. Okay, we understood India is the 7th largest, but it becomes very difficult for us to remember this order because UPSC can very well ask you. And at that time, not only with respect to India, they can ask certain countries and tell you to arrange them. How are you going to remember? One simple way. You recently saw Royal Challengers basically won the IPL trophy, and many Royal Challenger Bangalore's fan would be here. You can take it as a mnemonic. Royal Challengers went to Cuba Island. I'm repeating it again. Royal Challengers Bangalore or Royal Challengers went to Cuba Island. What is here? Russia, Canada, China, USA, Brazil, Australia, India. So this is a way you can basically remember this particular order and useful for your preliminary examination and a general information that you should know because it is very categorically mentioned in your NCERTs. Let's move ahead. Now, something very important that you can use while you're writing your answers in the mains examination, and of course, it can be useful with respect to the prelims, is with respect to the latitudes and the longitudinal extent. If you see from the perspective of longitudes, the extreme point on the western side of India is this particular longitude, which is 68 degrees 7 minutes east. Now this is the westernmost part of India. The particular place is Guhar Moti, which is in Gujarat. Again repeating, the westernmost extent with respect to the longitude, if you analyze, it is 68 degrees 7 minutes east. And the point is Guhar Moti in the state of Gujarat. Now, if you see the easternmost point, it is 97 degrees 25 minutes east. The point being Kibuthu, which is in Arunachal Pradesh. So this is what is your longitudinal extent from 68 degrees 7 minutes east to 97 degree 25 minutes east. Now, if you have understood the longitudinal extent, let us understand from the latitudinal extent. See, the topmost point is 37 degree 6 minutes north. This particular point is known as Tash Kurgan. Many books tend to put wrong marking of India, Indra Kol and all. So please be careful. This northernmost point is Tash Kurgan. On the other hand, this is Indra Kol, which you generally refer to as the northernmost point, but this is the position of Indra Kol. The actual northernmost point is Tash Kurgan, which is 37 degrees 6 minutes north. If we consider, please understand, if we consider the southernmost point of India with respect to Indian mainland, then it is 8 degree 4 minutes north. 8 degree 4 minutes north latitude. The point being Kanyakumari in the state of Tamil Nadu. So, northernmost being 37 degree 6 minutes north, southernmost being 8 degree 4 minutes north. Now we know something very well, that if we analyze the islands, then this further latitudes will further go down. That means the southernmost point of overall India is the Indira Point in Great Nicobar, which is located at 6 degree 45 minutes north. The overall extent, if you want to see the extreme points, it will be 37 degree 6 minutes north to 6 degree 45 minutes north. Something very important which were used to be written in the old NCERTs of geography, which is not present in the new geography. That is the alternative name of Indira Point. That you should know because UPSC can very well use them. See this. The latitudinal extent is this 37 degree 6 minutes north to 8 degree 4 minutes north and 6 degree 45 minutes north. That is the Indira Point. Previously, Indira Point was referred to as Pygmalion Point and the Parsons Point. Once it was Parsons Point, then Pygmalion Point. Later on, it was changed to Indira Point. So these are the old names of Indira Point. That is the southernmost point of India. With respect to longitude, you very well know 68 degree 7 minutes east to 97 degree 25 minutes east. So this is the latitudinal as well as the longitudinal extent of India. So you can remember them. It becomes very important also because when you are asked questions in your mains, sometimes you might use them. In the prelims, obviously, they can very well ask you with respect to the extent, and they can very well mention the longitudes and alter certain figures here. So you should be well aware and well read, and you should remember these particular figures very categorically. Let's move on to the further aspects when we study India. Let's see. Now, we have already seen what is the westernmost point and what is the easternmost point. We have seen the point here from Guhar Moti till Kibuthu. Now, what is the distance between these two points? That means the west-east distance, it is 2933 kilometers. 2933 kilometers is the maximum extent, that is east to west distance. On the other hand, if I want to calculate the northernmost to southernmost point till Kanyakumari, the distance is 3214 kilometers. This again becomes important. This has been asked previously also in your preliminary examination. Certain figures have been changed. So you should be aware with respect to these data because they are very categorically mentioned in your NCERT. Clear? Next. Now, something for you to solve, and every aspirant who's watching this particular video, take this as a quiz. In all the lectures we do, there will be certain IQ-based questions that will be there for you from my side, and you have to write the answers in the comment section. Let's see what the question is. The question is, what are the least number of states or union territories one has to go through or cut if traveling from the northernmost state or union territory to the southernmost, and traveling from the westernmost state or union territory to the easternmost, including the origin and destination state or union territory. That means, let us assume you are traveling from the westernmost state towards the easternmost state, right? You have to calculate what is the least number of states you will travel to reach this particular state, and in the calculation you have to include the origin state as well as the destination state. Similarly, when you are traveling from the northernmost point to the southernmost point, what is the least number of states that you can go through and reach this point? In the calculation, you have to include the northernmost, that is the origin state, as well as the destination state. In the comment section, please mention the question number, that means 1A and 1B, and write them in the answer section. Let's see how many of you get the answers right. I will be commenting in the section to give you the right answer. Let's continue with the lecture. See, something very important. Whenever we read this particular thing, especially with respect to coastline, has been in the news of late. And that is why it becomes important for us to remember and analyze that also. If you generally read the NCERTs, whether it is class 6th to 11th, you will come across this particular fact which says the frontier, that means the land boundary over here, this whole is 15,200 kilometers. It is fine. This is generally accepted fact. Now when we talk about the coastline of India, if I exclude the islands, according to the NCERT, it is 6,100 kilometers. If I include the islands, then it will become 7,515 kilometers if islands are included. But bache, please understand this. We always say that if there is a contradiction that is present with respect to NCERT and other data, you generally follow NCERT. But in this case, a special document has been produced by the Government of India. In this particular case, we realize that there has been an updation in the coastline as presented in the circular. This circular makes the coastline as, what is this figure? It is 11,098.81 kilometers. So it is 11,098.81 kilometers. This is the updated coastline with respect to India. Now, so please remember this. You have to follow this particular figure for your examination. Let me write it again. I think it is not clear. Let me write it again. 11,098.81 kilometers. So this is the actual coastline. Now the question arises, sir, if the change in the coastline has taken place, there is a great probability that UPSC in the coming years can ask us question with respect to what is the coastline of which state, arrange them in order, arrange them whether the coastline length of the island is more or which state is more. Absolutely. That is why this question is one of the most probable question for your prelims also. And again, if you want to appear for mains, you have to qualify prelims. But also for your mains perspective also, you should be knowing this. Let's see here. This is the updated coastline length, that is 11,098.81 kilometers. Now please understand this. This is the data, exact data from the Government of India. Because over here NCERT was lacking a little behind, so we have updated this. So you should also update in your notes with respect to the coastline length. I will be telling you also how to remember them. So if you see, this is state versus union territory. Wherever there's a union territory, I've written them in the bracket. So if you see the length, Andaman and Nicobar Island, the coastline length is 3083.50 kilometers. That is the maximum. Now that is overall, if you see, the Andaman Nicobar Island has the maximum length with respect to the coastline. With respect to a state, it is Gujarat. Gujarat has 2340.62 kilometers. Now please remember, you might have to remember the order. You might not remember the exact length, but order has to be remembered because you can be asked. So Gujarat 2340.62. After that is Tamil Nadu 1068.69 kilometers. Then Andhra Pradesh 1053.07. Maharashtra 877.97 kilometers. West Bengal 721.02 kilometers. Then Kerala 600.15 kilometers. Odisha 554.71 kilometers. Karnataka 343.30. Goa 193.95. Lakshadweep 144. Daman and Diu, Dadar Nagar Haveli 54. Puducherry 42. So what do we analyze from this? Firstly, the maximum coastline of, if the question is state and union territory, then it is a union territory, that is Andaman Nicobar. If with respect to state, it is Gujarat. Now, everybody studies generally Gujarat has a maximum coastline, so they might ask you with respect to arrangement of, let us say, 3 states. And they can ask you arrange them which on order, which according to the length of the coastline. In that case, you should know them. So the problem that arises is, sir, how can we remember that? That is what the problem arises. So, bache, see, if you all know that there is a meme or the trend that is going on that GTA 6 is coming, GTA 6 is coming. You would have heard that. Grand Theft Auto. All the boys who play games or previously would have played games, you would very well know the Grand Theft Auto is one of the very prominent games, right? Let's use that to analyze it. See, can I say a GTA man worked knock to knock, glad for points? Again, a GTA man worked knock to knock, glad for points. Andaman and Nicobar Islands, Gujarat, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Maharashtra, West Bengal, Karnataka, Orissa, Kerala, Goa, Lakshadweep, Daman and Diu, Dadar and Nagar Haveli, and Puducherry. Now see, I tried my best to make mnemonics, and this was the easiest mnemonic that I could create. And this was easy for me to remember also, and possibly for you also. So when you remember in such way, because you very well know that there's a possibility that they can ask you the questions. Let us say, they ask you, let us assume here, there are 3 states mentioned: West Bengal, then you have Karnataka, and then you have Odisha. They tell you to arrange the states in accordance with the length of their coastline, from greatest to the shortest or the smallest. You very well know that over here. When you see the question, possibly you might not be able to attempt if you do not know. Now you know that GTA man work knock to knock. So that means we know that the greatest length over here is West Bengal, then Karnataka, then Odisha. So we can arrange them. Becomes easier. If you do not know them, then it will be a problematic situation. So please, 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 this is some of the problematic things that you should solve it in an easier way. Clear? So we have done with the coastline, again important from the perspective of the location. Let's move ahead. Now, you know that very well. Unlike various countries which follow various time zones, we have selected one longitude as a standard time. That is Indian Standard Time. That is 82 degrees, 30 minutes east, which passes through Mirzapur, which is near, again, Prayagraj, but it is not exactly. So the exact position being Mirzapur. Exact location being Mirzapur. Now, with respect to civil services examination, they can ask you, okay, if this particular longitude is being crossing India, to which all state does it basically cut? This can be asked because this is again present in your NCERT. So you should know them. First of all, it is traversing or traveling or cutting Uttar Pradesh. It is cutting Chhattisgarh. It is cutting Madhya Pradesh, Odisha, and Andhra Pradesh. Uttar Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, Odisha, Andhra Pradesh. Please make this clear in your minds that many might get confused that if in the examination of the civil services, they present one more state in the form of Telangana. Please understand, it does not cut Telangana. People will get confused because they assume that possibly, because Andhra Pradesh was divided into Telangana and Andhra Pradesh, so possibly it might cut from Telangana also, because you are not able to recall the exact position of this particular longitude. It does not cut through Telangana. It cuts through all these 5 states: UP, Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, Odisha, and Andhra Pradesh. This is with respect to the Indian Standard Time. Clear? So I think it will be clear for you and easy for you to remember also. So you should remember this. Next, when we are studying, again an important thing that is present in your NCERTs right from your class 6th even till class 11th, they mention about Tropic of Cancer dividing the country into almost half. Right? The Tropic of Cancer basically refers to the 23 degree 5 minutes north. So the upper part basically lies in the temperate, the lower part in the tropical. This is what generally we study. Now, when we study this line, the important thing with respect to analyzing it is, if it is crossing this, what all states are basically being cut in this particular case. So if you move from the westernmost part of India towards the easternmost, you will be able to analyze it is cutting various states. It is cutting Rajasthan, it is cutting Gujarat, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Jharkhand, West Bengal, Tripura, and Mizoram. Tripura and Mizoram, right? So if you see Mizoram, Tripura, it is cutting through West Bengal. It is cutting through again Chhattisgarh. It is cutting through Jharkhand. It is cutting through Madhya Pradesh. It is cutting through Rajasthan. It is cutting through Gujarat. So all these states are basically being cut. So what are the number of states which are being cut? That is 8. Again, Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, West Bengal, Tripura, Rajasthan, and Mizoram. These are the states which are being cut by 23 degree 5 minutes north, that is the Tropic of Cancer. Now this is a basic knowledge that you should have. Questions have been asked previously also, directly and indirectly through this. This becomes very core or important for your examination. With respect to this, let us move a little forward. Now, once we know that this is the particular latitude, it is also a latitude, right? It's a latitude. So let's analyze it further. Now see, this is one thing that UPSC can ask you. Which all states? They might mention 1 or 2 more states intentionally to test you. So you should be very well aware of these states. Let us go a little step forward. If you realize, these are the capitals of the states which it is cutting, or the important places with respect to the states which are being cut. Now see over here, Gandhinagar in Gujarat, Bhopal over here in case of Madhya Pradesh. Then you have Ranchi, Raipur, Kolkata, Agartala, Aizwal, Jaipur with respect to Rajasthan. These are the important places which are present in the map in the NCERT, and they very categorically mention it. So when we analyze this, do you realize one thing? Over here, Gandhinagar, Bhopal, Raipur, Kolkata, all of them lie south of the Tropic of Cancer. What? Gandhinagar, Bhopal, see here. Gandhinagar, Bhopal, Raipur, and Kolkata. So what is the uniqueness over here? Let's do it again. Gandhinagar, Bhopal, Raipur, Kolkata. These 4 important places, what is the commonality? Lie south of Tropic of Cancer. Tropic of Cancer. It is lying south of Tropic of Cancer. Clear? What is another unique thing that you note? See here. Ranchi lies on the Tropic of Cancer. Lies on the Tropic of Cancer. So you can be asked also, which among the following important places lie on the Tropic of Cancer? Over here it is Ranchi. And with respect to the other states, other places, you realize they lie below. Now there are 3 other places among the states, 8 states that we have studied, which lie above. That means Jaipur with respect to Rajasthan, Agartala with respect to Tripura, Aizwal with respect to Mizoram. Now these 3 lie above the Tropic of Cancer. If it is asked, you know that very well, obviously Jaipur is far in the north, it will by default lie above the Tropic of Cancer, but people get confused when they see Agartala and Aizwal. So you should know that these 3 places, they lie above Tropic of Cancer. They lie above Tropic of Cancer. Clear? Now many will ask, sir, there can be many other cities can be asked. Yes, they can be. But again, the interesting thing that happens is, even when the examiners are making the papers, they refer to the NCERTs and particularly the maps, and so many maps are given there. It is easy for them and sufficient for them to use the maps and create the questions. So if you have done even the map study in the chapters well, you will not be having any problem. And these are the things that basically sum up what is written in that particular chapter of India location. This is what these things are mentioned directly, indirectly, and because this chapter is very crisp also, so you will not have much problem. But This is again something based on analysis of the one particular huge map that is present on the NCERT, right? Okay. Next. Now comes the aspect of India's neighbor. India's neighbor, if you realize, we have so many neighbors, some good, some not so good, some enemies, as any other country. Now, if you realize, if you move from the westernmost part, our favorite enemy, that is Pakistan, you will be realizing it shares a border that means over here 3310 kilometers. Starting from here, moving here, then this part. This is 3310 kilometers. Then we have Afghanistan. Please understand that one thing should be very clear in your mind. Many people will say, sir, this is the Radcliffe boundary line. This is again a little bit the international border. Then we have the LOC. Then we have the AGPL, actual ground position line. Yes, that is clear. That is a different scenario. We very well know that this particular whole map of Kashmir, Jammu and Kashmir, or the Union Territory, and this Ladakh portion is ours. They are integral part of the India, the Union of India. So for us, even the Afghanistan that lies here is our neighbor. And we have to take that into consideration very well. So we have Afghanistan also sharing a border that is 80 kilometers. Next, if you see, this is a part China, that we share it with China. Now this is 3917. Please understand, 397 does not cover only this, it also covers this part and this particular part. Clear? So 3917 is not only this, but this part also and this part including. Clear? So this is basically the McMahon line which we will be studying. McMahon line, these are certain things which I've added extra other than the NCERTs, which I'll be including in the following slides and making you understand all these intricacies. See here. So we have Afghanistan, we have Pakistan, Afghanistan, we have China, that is 3917, Nepal 1752 kilometers. Then you have Bhutan, that is 587 kilometers. This we have already covered in China. Then you have Myanmar, that is 1458 kilometers, and then you have Bangladesh 4096 kilometers. Now the question arises, see, this is very easy to tell that this is the length, that is the length, very easy to present also, I agree to you. But the question arises, how can we remember them? Because this is again mentioned in even in the NCERTs, the length and what are the neighbors, who are the neighbors, right? Understand this, there's a way to remember it. If you know, if you observe, you do not necessarily have to remember the figures or the kilometers, but you should know the order. How can you remember that? Understand this. How are you going to remember? BC Pakistan, Master of Business Administration, MBA. Nepal being a buffer country will come in between. Right? How? BC Pakistan, Master of Business Administration, MBA. Nepal as a buffer state comes in between. Like Nepal is a buffer state between India and China. So let us take it as a buffer state or something that is between two countries, buffer. So BC Pakistan, MBA, in the middle, Nepal. Bangladesh, China, Pakistan, Nepal, Myanmar, Bhutan, Afghanistan in the descending order. In the descending order. This you already seen, Bangladesh, see over here. All the numbers are mentioned, the kilometers. If you see this, you will be able to remember it very, very well. Clear? This again becomes important for your examination. Even such questions have been asked in your interviews for that matter. So NCERTs again form a very core or basis of your preparation right from the first step of your prelims till the last step of your interview. Clear? So having done this with respect to Indian neighbors, let's move ahead. Now this is something that is very controversial. Very controversial, which when I was discussing with certain aspirants also, they said, sir, please tell us one thing, that when we talk about Indian subcontinent, there are certain NCERTs of class 6th and 7 mention certain other countries like Maldives and Sri Lanka also. But when we talk about the NCERT of class 11th, India's physical environment, it basically mentions only these countries. That is India, Pakistan, Nepal, Bhutan, and Bangladesh. So, sir, what should we refer to? Now, please understand, Based on the analysis and study being done, please understand this. When we refer to the Indian subcontinent, various NCERTs, particularly of the smaller classes like 6th and 7th and certain other books also, they tend to consider Indian subcontinent from a very loose context. Loose context, that means they can consider it from the perspective of common history, common culture. We can consider Indian subcontinent from that perspective also. So that is why the 6th and 7th NCERTs use this terminology of including the countries of Sri Lanka as well as Maldives in this particular section. But when we study the class 11th NCERT, which only considers these 5 countries, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that is Pakistan, India, Nepal, Bhutan and Bangladesh, they are considering themselves only from the perspective of geography. Geography, particularly the area. So in the examination, based on the questions that have been asked in the previous years, not only in the civil services, but also in the other examinations, UPSC has taken these 5 countries as their answer. So please remember, when the question of Indian subcontinent simply is asking, nothing else is mentioned, then take these 5 countries that comprise Indian subcontinent. If in the question it is mentioned in Indian subcontinent with respect to culture, in that case you can include Sri Lanka and Maldives, not otherwise. So what all the countries that are included here? See here. First Pakistan, second Nepal, third Bhutan, fourth Bangladesh, and fifth India. I think this makes it very clear with respect to understanding of the Indian subcontinent. Clear? Let's continue. Now comes something that I have added extra. Please, students, remember this. Till now, whatever you had studied, was very directly mentioned in your NCERTs. Yeah? And certain other concepts, please remember, have been mentioned in NCERTs which are very old NCERTs. Over there, they had added or certain other aspects were present. So what I have done is I have added those elements also when I am considering the chapter of India location, so that you do not have any problem. You are holistically covering a particular chapter of India location. Let's see this. Now, please, students, understand. When I talk about location, because you very well know that we have to study the neighbors and dimensions associated with them, there is a Radcliffe line which basically separates India and Pakistan, or for that matter, this former East Pakistan also covers this Radcliffe line. That was basically an outcome of the report of the Radcliffe Boundary Commission, right? Now, please understand, when we talk about Radcliffe line, this line begins from the Gujarat, traverses from Rajasthan and ends at the close boundary where Punjab state is ending. So these are the states which are covered in the Radcliffe. Now the problem that arises is, sir, okay, we have accepted it. This is a border also, international border, but we call it as a Radcliffe line. Now, is this the only line that separates India and Pakistan? No. So understand what are the other elements that are involved here. Let's see them. See, bache, the moment till here, what was the line? Till here, it was the Radcliffe line. Post that, this region of Jammu, please understand this very well. This is the region where Jammu is also here. This is known as the international border. 221 kilometers. Why it is called international border? Because there is no dispute with respect to India and Pakistan in this particular border that is there. Clear? There is no dispute. Now, when we move ahead, we realize that this is particularly, this line which you see in the form of green is known as LOC, line of control, 776 kilometers. We'll understand them also. Line of control. Now, this particular part, please understand. This particular part this is Pak occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Pak occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Clear? We earlier, when we were studying the lengths of the frontier lengths and what all neighborhood we have, we had studied those lengths. But now we also need to analyze these things also. Yeah. Post the LOC, please understand, this is a particular point which is known as point NJ9842. Clear? From this line lies the AGPL, that is actual ground position line. Now this forms again the western side of the Siachen Glacier. Now what Pakistan says is, Pakistan says no, this is the line. We have our Pak occupied Kashmir and it should be till here. But India says no, Siachen is R, so we have this line, that is actual ground position line. So this is the region where the Indian soldiers are located in the highest battlefield in the world, guarding our borders. So this line is actual ground position line. The length is 110 kilometers. Now, you can be asked in your examination, let us say they will put AGPL, they will put LOC and this international border part and tell you to arrange them in the order of their length. Now, you know that very well that LOC is 776 kilometers, international border in the state of Jammu and Kashmir 221, and AGPL as 110 kilometers. Clear? Now, let us see, understand a little bit about these three before we move on to LAC. Actual ground position line and LOC. See here. The actual ground position line. See, it is a line that currently divides the current positions of India and Pakistan troops in the Siachen Glacier region. Right? So this is where the troops are located fighting for the land, right? Indian soldiers are there, right? Now, next come here, LOC, line of control. Please understand, the earlier name of line of control was ceasefire line. The name was changed to LOC by the Shimla Agreement in 1974. After Pakistan had basically been dismally defeated in the war, a Shimla Agreement took place where this particular agreement basically stated that this ceasefire line would be called as the LOC. So what does it mean? It refers to the military control line between India and Pakistan. Clear? Now comes the LAC. LAC, let's understand. Now you know that very well that there is a region which is occupied by China also. They put it as Askaichen. This is the region of Pak occupied Kashmir. So this is the region which they have occupied. Now, this particular line which is separating the territory which is occupied by China and the one which is in the Indian gamut is known as the line of actual control, LOAC or LAC also for that matter, which is 3488 kilometers. Clear? Let's move ahead. So the line that separates Indian controlled territory from the Chinese controlled territory. Chinese controlled territory. This is what is LAC. Now, something that you will observe is many will be saying, sir, is this length 3488 kilometers? No. The LAC is not confined to this particular region, but also extending to other regions where basically we share a border with China. So it has various other segments like in the northeastern region also. So complete LAC is basically 3488. It is not confined to this here. So that means other parts, which includes the middle and western segments or sectors. Western segments. If you realize this, there are parts which you have in Uttarakhand also, then you have this particular region also, and there is problem with respect to this particular region also. So the completely it is known as 3488 kilometers. Clear? So this is the aspect which we see with respect to Jammu and Kashmir. So this is, please understand, this is not complete 3488. It includes the other parts also. Clear? So when we are going over here, please understand this. This is line of control, then this is actual ground position line, LAC, this part. Again, LAC has other parts also in the middle and the western segments. And this is the international border. Please understand again, the border which you study from, which is currently known as Radcliffe line also, that is also international border. but we generally call it as a Radcliffe line, and this particular segment, again, the international border. So you can, if you want, some books, what they mention is they mention complete Radcliffe line as international border along with this. So again, those are things that are very easily depending upon book to book, but this is something that you should be aware of. Clear? Okay. Let's move ahead. Now comes with respect to Nepal. Let us see. Let's move right from Jammu Kashmir region to a little bit towards the middle part. You know, this is, if you realize this is the state of Uttarakhand, right? This is the state of Uttarakhand. And you know this very well that this is what is the, this is the Nepal. This is Nepal, right? Now there is a particular region over here, the extreme corner, extreme point of the state of Uttarakhand. Now this, it was recently the tri-junction, which is Kala Pani region. Now this is very important from the perspective that this shares border, this particular point or region shares again intersection with China as well as Nepal and India also. So it is a tri-junction. Tri-junction, why? Because this is India, this is Nepal, and this is China. That is why it becomes very, very problematic also. So the problem should be resolved. Now please understand what the problem is. If I magnify this, you will realize this particular river that is coming, this is Kali River. Yeah, and you know very well, we need to go a little bit back also, we'll explain that. This particular region is India, and this is also the part of Uttarakhand. Now, what happened recently is Nepal claimed this territory to be theirs. There are important places. Lipu Lake Pass is over here. Then Kalapani region is here. So Nepal claimed this yellow region that is in the state of Uttarakhand as their own. Now, India protested that it is not theirs, it is ours. Please understand this. The problem that arises is Treaty of Sugauli in 1816 established the Kali River as the western border of Nepal with British India. What happened is during that time, a lot of misinterpretation took place. And this particular region again becomes sensitive because Nepal is claiming to be theirs, India is claiming to be there. Right now it is under the control of India. But what India says is, see, till this point it can be yours, but this complete segment is ours. You cannot be claiming this part. So India says this is not something that is in the jurisdiction of Nepal. So this is a dispute that is going on because of an old treaty that was signed during the time of British India. So small disputes with respect to the interpretation of what they mean is again the cause. So Government of India and the Government of Nepal are currently working on this together to resolve this problem. The problem enhances because China is also something a party of it. And China being on the side of Nepal, and Nepal considers China as an all-weather friend, that is why this problem further escalates. So let's see, probably India is closely working with Nepal to resolve and negotiate this problem. Let's move ahead. See, as we said, misinterpretation by the both countries of Treaty of Sugauli has led to this dispute. Let's move ahead. Important thing here. This particular line, again, when you consider it as a line of actual control again, but this is also known by a particular name, McMahon line, 1890 kilometers. Now the problem arises, please, because we are studying India location, so we need to consider these problems also. India location over here, this particular line, basically it borders what? Arunachal Pradesh. This is the northern part of Arunachal Pradesh. Now, India claims that this is the actual line which is separating India from Tibet, Tibet being an autonomous part of again China now. China does not agree to this. Now, how did this problem basically arose? That is where the issue lies. What happened is, a Shimla Convention in 1914 was held between the British Indian government and Tibet. At that time, China had not completely captured Tibet. So, that agreement that was done was between British India and Tibet. Later what happened, when China fully captured Tibet in 1950, they said that, see, we were not the ones who made this agreement or this Shimla Convention 1914, and we were not a part of it. So we are not going to adhere to this McMahon line, and we are not going to follow it. So what happened? China claimed Arunachal Pradesh as southern Tibet. So what is China doing right now? China is saying that, China is saying that this part, this particular region of Arunachal Pradesh is southern Tibet. They claim it on the premise that the Arunachal people of Arunachal Pradesh have similar cultural association as that of China, and that is why it is part of southern China. And they are continuously claiming, creating disputes of stapled visas and all that has been going on for a very long time. And this is again, they do not agree to this line. They said this should be the actual line that should be present, which India completely disagrees because Arunachal Pradesh forms an integral part of the Union of India. Let's move ahead. Next, very interesting with respect to Sri Lanka. Now, if you see this, this is Sri Lanka. Yeah. Now, when you see Sri Lanka, there are a lot of problems that basically arises. Please you realize that there are this place is very sensitive. Obviously, there are corals, but this region is very important for the fishermen. This is the Tamil Nadu, and this is again the northern Sri Lanka. So a lot of fishermen, what they do is they tend to move across the waters or territorial waters of India. They get arrested by the coast guards of India. When the Indian fishermen, particularly from the state of Tamil Nadu, move to this particular region, they get arrested by the coastal forces or guards of Sri Lanka. And that is why, if you realize, this particular region, the problem is basically the fishermen problem. And what happens is that when you are basically fishing, catching the fish, you tend to cross or enter the territorial waters of the other country. And then you get arrested. So that is why many times the fishermen of either countries, either sides are arrested in the jails, and after some time they might be released when the governments make efforts together. This is one major problem. Second problem that arose is with respect to Kachathevu Island. Now, this is an island over here which was given to Sri Lanka by the government of India in 1974. What is the dispute that arose is, the state of Tamil Nadu says that they were not considered while this island was being ceded to the country that is Sri Lanka. Because what used to happen, many times fishermen used to, this is an uninhabited island, though it has a church also. So some Tamilians say it is important with respect to culture. Some say the fishermen used to rest there, spread their nets there. So what is going on when it is belonging to Sri Lanka? When fishermen basically go there, it basically creates issues. Many might be getting arrested and all. So it has created a lot of problem. And that is why, please understand, this dispute had arisen that the state of Tamil Nadu says, why has the central government in 1974 ceded this island to Sri Lanka? This again begins or remains a bone of contention, though the government of India has made it very clear because it has been given to Sri Lanka, so it remains theirs right now. Let's move ahead. Now, when we talk about, let me again move towards the western part. If you see, this is the Gujarat region, right? In Gujarat, now you realize this is the Sindh part. This region over here, this region is the Sindh part of Pakistan, right? This is Gujarat. Over here, let us magnify this. There are certain creeks. Now, what are creeks? Please understand. First of all, creeks are narrow area of water that flow into the land from the sea. So that means the water is entering from the sea towards a narrow piece of land, right? Let us assume this is a narrow piece of land. Let us make it even better so that you understand it well. Supposingly, there is a narrow piece of land, right, like this. This is all land, right? Land. Now, what is here? There is all sea or ocean or water here, right? A sea is here. Now, water from the sea is basically entering this region. So this is a narrow area of water that flows into the land from the sea, right? Clear? So basically over here. Clear? Chalo. Let's see. So the dispute that arises over here in Kori Creek becomes very, very important from the perspective that, let's say, analyze it. So if we see here, we'll be analyzing that this particular region, there are two major creeks that we study with respect to Pakistan and India. This is again a Khori Creek that is within the Indian jurisdiction, so there is no problem. There is another creek that is Sir Creek. Now, if you see this very categorically, this is a red line that is drawn here that is almost in the middle of the creek according to the international conventions. If such disputes arises, so generally the middle line between such creeks can be drawn as a boundary or a border separating two countries. So India says, okay, we'll follow the convention that is an international award, and a middle line can be drawn. This is the red line which India claims should be separating India and Pakistan. On the other hand, what is the Pakistan claim? This is the Pakistan claim. Pakistan claim says no. This complete creek should be there, so that is why they have drawn this green line. Why or what is the reason? See, Sir Creek becomes very important from the perspective of recent development with respect to oil and gas exploration or the minerals have been found. So they want it as a strategic measures as their own, whereas India is very ardent of the perspective that it is going to follow the international norms where the complete Sir Creek cannot be given to Pakistan. And if Pakistan wants to resolve this dispute, then in that particular case, the middle line, what is expected from the international award and the tribunals, it should be followed. Now, this is what is the issue of Sir Creek that we basically study here. Okay. So this was the topic of India location. What we have done in today's lecture is we have basically studied all the aspects that are present in the NCERT, certain other measures or points that you just now saw with respect to disputes and areas were mentioned in your old, very old NCERTs. Even before what we know as old NCERTs, before them also, there were various old NCERTs which basically mention them. So we have taken those particular things from them and made a comprehensive lecture for you so that you can understand, read it again and again. So this will form a holistic coverage of this particular chapter. We will be continuing with a detailed analysis of the NCERT based aspects and certain other aspects which are covered in old NCERTs also, so that you have all the resources that are present there in front of you and you can qualify this examination with really flying colors. Whether it is the prelims examination, whether it is the mains examination, or whether you are sitting for the interview, you are confident with respect to the subject of geography. I'm going to take the lectures forward. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Make a note of it, learn it, revise it, and achieve your goal. At the last, as you always say, Jai Hind.